So, good evening, everyone, and it's my pleasure to moderate this panel discussion. The profiles, as mentioned by Rakesh earlier, is there for all of us to refer to, but I'll still go ahead and introduce my panel members to all of you. I'll begin with Dr. Vinod Verma. He's Head Regulatory Affairs, Hindalco, SVP, Group Corporate Affairs, Aditya Birla Group. Vinod comes with 30 plus years of experience with wide ranging responsibilities across multiple sectors. And he has held forte in HR, CSR, compliance, and environmental responsibility in the steel industry. Uh, Going next with Jayati Dwivedi. She's head of talent acquisition director, ISC Philips. Her global experience includes heading business, talent management, acquisition, business partnering, product management, procurement, and business development. Over to Neha Aluwalia. Neha is a HR professional with 16 plus years of experience. She has had global, regional, and local experience in establishing shared services in record speed and efficient manner. And so I would say truly that our panel is living up to the topic that we are going to discuss. We are going to talk about mind over matter, developing and strengthening workplace culture in a multifaceted hybrid environment. I would just like to share with my panel members some of the findings and pointers that came from the earlier session. We had run a poll in the first panel discussion, and what it concluded was 63% of what's going to impact the future workforce is the hybrid environment. And a question was asked to some of the speakers earlier as to what do you think is going to be the leadership mindset going forward? And the responses came was digital, business first, and that's pretty much is an important point for all of us to consider. So I just thought that I'll set the context first with you all before I begin my questions. So my first question is to you, Jayati, in terms of, based on, I'm sure that you must have been listening to some of the earlier discussions as well. And looking at our topic, we are going to talk about embracing diversity in the work world. We are also going to talk about harnessing cultural transformation for business growth, redefining the relevant communication and engagement framework, creating integrated capability and competency models, and rebalancing strategy to deal with the talent war and great attrition. So we already have the talking points. So what I'm going to ask you is that looking at the current context, has the definition of diversity, inclusion undergone a change? Do you think that a vastly diverse workforce is going to help or hinder in terms of business growth?
Thank you, Rachna, for welcoming us and bringing us all together. Hi, Vinod and Neha. I do have a little challenge with my internet connections, and I'll be toggling between two internet connections as best as I can. I've been listening to all the conversations that have been happening in the previous sessions, especially with Animesh, which was really exciting, interesting.
Yes.
Your question around how a more integrated or how a more inclusive work culture will be the core of drive as we go progress into the new world. And I'm saying it as a new world because we've just ended a kind of work culture prior to our the COVID pandemic that we had, and now we are in that ambiguous situation where we're trying to find what is the new way of working. And sure enough, much higher inclusive way of looking at the entire talent is the need of the hour. Of course, this has to be coupled with what kind of work we are looking at, in which kind of stream, in what area is also equally important. So we are at that cusp where we do not know actually how or what is success or what is definitely the best way to progress, but we've got to find that path, and to find that path we've to take with us the entire talent that is there around us and be much more inclusive than what we were prior to the pandemic. So that's absolutely true that we have to take a very, very mixed talent along with us and be more inclusive in our approach to work.
So I would ask a sequel question to what you just now shared. Keeping that perspective in mind, then what are the, what is it that will make a good business acumen and strategy to make it a success? Keeping that we have to take across geographies, locations, people with diverse approaches. We have a hybrid environment. So what is it that we need to work towards as a business acumen, as strategy, to make that a success?
I think the first and foremost thing is to be really aware, or to really understand what is the business. And Animesh said it very well. Understanding from where is that revenue coming in, what is the revenue stream, how is it coming in, what is our function, what is the area that we are developing, what is the area of core expertise that we are building within the organization. So one part of it is understanding the business itself, not as an outsider, but being part of that business. That's one part. And also understanding where is the talent coming in to deliver that business. So yesterday, if you recollect, we were connecting and we spoke a little about how an organization can have different kinds of footprint in a country. Especially global organizations will have different kinds of footprints. There will be an R&D, there will be a lab, there will be a manufacturing setup, and then there will be the shared services and the commercials. Now, how do we as a HR fraternity or leadership understand the business and also understand where is that talent coming from, and work together to be highly inclusive towards a single purpose, that is getting to know the business and getting that business moving, and then working on a model that is most suitable to get that business done. And also keeping in perspective what kind of growth we are looking at. We all know that this year, post the pandemic that we went through, we're seeing that we are really growing in multiple areas in multiple times. So how do we manage that growth at the same time? So keeping ourselves really informed and being part of it and understanding all of these aspects to really find what's the best solution or best way forward in this ambiguous situation is the core of the challenge.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Vinod Verma, I would like to talk to you further on this. Looking at the kind of business Aditya Birla Group has, and some of the earlier speakers were also saying that it's very industry specific. So probably, an organization like Hindalco would no longer think of hybrid, would rather be, at the production site and working, and the complete workforce actually meeting. So, can you share some of your experiences from the organization perspective in terms of how have you encouraged inclusion, diversity at the workplace, specifically from a production unit or something that that organization or setup had not seen before? I also request you to unmute, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rachna, Neha, and Jyoti, for allowing me to speak as a proud employee instead of a subject expert, because I am not a subject expert. But let me share the practical experience at ground. Coming back to the hybrid or that way, the use of max technology in the post-COVID scenario or pre this thing. So let me share practical experience in terms of we believe in the proactive approach. Like work from home concept is more popular during this COVID this thing, but that concept was introduced in my organization prior to that. Earlier we were allowed to have 2 or 3 days work from home during a month. That was the testing this thing, that how we can that we give some additional advantage or the comfort to the employee to use the technology and without the having any adverse impact on the output. And at shop floor level, in terms of like Hindalco allowed one female to head the manufacturing unit. So C, control the unit in desired way, and the output and in terms of managerial skill, or to develop that plant. So that was the fantastic model, and now she is heading the sustainability division. In terms of proactive approach, my MD, introduced that, the one day at least, spare ground workforce, and, engineer or the manager should, operate that particular plant or the machine. So that played a very important role, and, we got the desired result. So in totality, proactive approach, in that workplace played a very important role, and, that way, created a positive environment to fight with that COVID situation and the post-COVID in terms of different challenges.
Great, thank you. That was really, I think, a great step, because I do know, since we have also worked with some of the production units, that there is definitely was a resistance to having more diversity, especially, some jobs are considered to be very specific to a specific people, like men can do it better, or, this leadership can only be driven by somebody who has done it for several years. And I definitely remember you talked about that we are taking more and more such steps to have higher diversity and inclusion at workplace. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Neha, yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry. So likewise, that way, near to odd working environment, take the example of, surrounding the furnaces and all this thing. I visited my plant in Odisha. I saw a lot of young girl engineers. So they are working and they're so happy. The involvement at the floor level was very high, and the morale was very high. I talked to that way group of engineers. So they were having the different experience and said that this is the place where that way we can add value and prove that we also can contribute, and we can work at odd situation.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate that information. Neha, I'd like to come to you to talk about, we discussed earlier about talent war and great attrition. So what are your thoughts about some new engagement models or approaches that you have a perspective on, should be initiated or are already initiated, that would help us to look at this in a more controlling manner or impactful manner, that we are able to capture it as a success. So what are your thoughts about it?
Okay, thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for listening to us. So first of all, Rachna, I might make a statement. Of course, that's my favorite one. Rather, this is the philosophy since the time I have become a business HR, that there's a difference between engagement and entertainment. And maybe Vinod will relate with me more. So the thing is that sometimes when we say that, we did a particular celebration, all that is really good. But having said that, that is entertainment. Nobody will stay along with an organization because they had a very good Diwali celebration. They stay along because they see a career growth. They stay along because they see themselves part of a success journey. They see themselves not becoming a leader alone, but creating a leadership around it, because there's a difference between being a leader and being part of the leadership journey as well. So for me, this is one of the engagement models we particularly follow in ABP as well. That we do all that is really appreciated, that fun at work, Friday, fun do Friday, whatever, all that, but nobody stick around for that. So we need to have a real engagement at level, which typically means that they see a career trajectory for them. They really see something growing along when an organization grow, or if an organization really doesn't grow. So keeping all that in mind. So that for me, Rachna, any organization particularly should have that mindset, that first of all, that clarity. Any business leader, be on the shop floor or be in an IT organization, that clarity has to be really there. So that comes across as one of the model mindset that we really go across when it comes to the engagement. also, from where I see that, when we say, okay, we did an OD intervention or we did some kind of assessment, at the end of the day, any of that, if it's a solution mindset driven setup, which means you get everybody in a room and you start having a workshop which talks about a solution mindset, which means that everybody in the rooms talk about how to get there rather than telling what are the problems out there. It makes a lot of difference. So in ABB particularly, I mean, which Vinod also mentioned, and in some sense Jayati as well mentioned, that when we were dealing with two type of workforce in the organization, production and non-production workforce, or a diverse workforce, where can we send these this particular gender to a site or not? So it's all not about that. For us, it's not important that you select a woman for a position or not. You should have a woman in the interview for that position. After that, woman has to fight on their own. So at the end of the day, it's not necessarily that it has to be quota. The point is that they have to be on the right fair battle. There should not be a case that you are giving a recruiter give 35 CVs for a male gender and 2 for female. That's unfair. But after that, if you give 15, if a woman don't get selected, that's absolutely competency. So I think truly drive competency is one other engagement model that we truly drive it.
Okay, thank you. So Jayati, I would like to continue this discussion, especially when Neha said about competency, about inclusion. So could you share your perspective about now with the changing environment, and we are looking more at hybrid, multifaceted, and global, especially you coming from a global experience, looking at each country or location specific cultures also. So what are some of the changes that you think needs to be initiated to look at the current context, as well as the fact that we are going to sustain the hybrid model for a while before we decide, how to take the next step?
Absolutely. So on top of whatever Neha said right now, to keep people engaged and to understand what's it that keeps people engaged, how do you drive engagement models? I think a bigger piece that I see in Philips, that is the entire piece around a purpose. How do you drive a common purpose across the entire length and breadth of the organization to make sure that people are all engaged and feel proud and feel associated with the organization, and especially in this kind of a situation that we are in. So being a healthcare company, there's a huge purpose that we have, and we saw how that purpose came live during the pandemic. And that's what was one of the connecting points amongst most all employees. So that's one big piece. I also see that, like Neha was saying, is how do you drive inclusiveness? Now, inclusiveness is not just with gender. Of course, gender for India is a big piece because we do see that it's still not equal. It's far away from being equity based. Also, it's far away from being equal. So there's a huge focus across all the organizations that we are from, where gender is a strong agenda and is being run as a strong agenda. I see this as a global agenda as well, not just India agenda. It's a global agenda, and so it percolates right from top down as well as from in the middle of in the middle range of the organization as well. The post the pandemic or during the pandemic, I observed another change that's happening. And that change is very interesting, exciting. I'm seeing a whole lot of kind of jobs, different kind of jobs coming into India, and not just into India, into countries across the globe, because suddenly we all have realized that it's digital which is going to play. It is the new norm which is going to play. So business leaders have realized that does not matter where the person is seated. He can be in Brazil, he can be in Netherlands, he can be in US or Australia, he can be anywhere. So it's a remote but virtual work that has really become prominent. And as a result, we are seeing an influx of a different environment of people around us. It's culturally I mean, we have to become more culturally adaptable to be able to work with a complete diverse background of people. And that's what is inclusiveness all about. And that's what we have to now ride on and be quick enough to really adapt to it. And I see that is really exciting and interesting because it's a give and take process. We then get acclimatized. We start understanding that it's becoming global again. It's becoming a global world again. So that's what I see is another angle of inclusiveness that is actually making a very interesting change in the corporate world.
Thank you. So, taking the pointers that Jayati has just now shared, Dr. Vinod Varma, I have a question to you. How do you make sure that the ethics, values, the culture, especially, Aditya Birla Group is an organization which is diverse in many aspects, multi-located across the world. And if you could also talk about the role leadership plays in that, as to how do you ensure that people who are onboarded, so let's say if they are onboarded at a particular location and keeping the current context, probably they are not right, then how do you make sure that the ethics, values, and the culture of the organization is commonly spread, understood, integrated? Could you share your experiences, please?
Yeah, but frankly speaking, that's a myth that, some, I also, hear some of the comments that, business cannot be, that a flourish, after obeying the ethics, business ethics, and, to adopt the desired culture. Let me share one of the example, my managing director spent around 80% of time in Europe, when he joined here, and that way he started that way what you call, you rightly said, we have the diversified work culture, as well as we are in various areas, multi-location, we have operation in more than 46 countries. So having said that, that way he started implementation of some of the key learning from his side at floor level in manufacturing this thing. He believes in interacting with the young talent instead of sitting with the functional head and all this thing. Whenever he visit to the manufacturing unit, he loves to interact with the new generation or new engineers, instead of spending time somewhere. And the young generation, need involvement, participation in decision making, and youth are full of in terms of excitement, and they want to do something new, and they want to apply their ideas and the use of technology. So there is generation gap, but to give them the full respect and comfort zone so that they can come out with their ideas. And that way one has to create an environment where experienced that way leader should give the respect to their idea, and that way give them the proper place to that way discuss or implement. Just one answer. Coming back to the exchange of the culture, best practice that that way, if somebody is working in UK or the US, so my organization is providing the platform, exchange of talent, exchange of best practices, not only within the particular company, but across the sector, or even at worldwide. So that gives the implementation of best practices at manufacturing level, different level, and that creates the environment to respect the different cultures at workplace, so that one should feel that part of the good organization. And in terms of retracement on all this thing, I am glad to share that in my organization, pan India or at world level, nobody came to the HR saying that I want to leave this thing, and vis-a-vis that the management provided them the full security in all respect. And we identified the set of people in different, like in manufacturing, if you say that the work from home cannot be implemented at full this thing. We identified some of the area proactively and provided them the full support in terms of upgradation of technology, equipment and all this thing. And they are doing fantastic job. Like, in Mumbai, some of the, those who are making some report or analyzing some report, something like that, so they are happy to, work from home, and they are saving more than 4 hours to travel. They are adding value, their efficiency has improved. And, that way organization is saving in terms of, providing them, let me share some of the practical experience. In Delhi, some of the big organizations, they have, reduced their area for offices. So that's some of the, in post-pandemic, we have learned a lot of lessons. And see, again, I'm coming back to, see proactive approach plays a very important role.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing the real-time experiences. I think that what really counts. Neha, I would like to continue this discussion with you on how do we make sure that, especially, each organization specific would have different approaches. So how about your perspective, and maybe if you could also share some experiences from your organization as to what is the role leaders have played or can play in making sure that there is a integration of ethics, values, culture across locations and geographies. So what role leaders can play in that?
Thank you so much again. I mean, leaders only play the pivotal 70% role, according to me. In any such big change, or rather any such transformational change, it's the role that if the top management and the leadership is not driving it, then it really doesn't happen. If you're trying to change any systemic shift or anything which change the way you think, and especially like what you said, it really will not happen. So even for ABB, of course, we start from really putting it in our core values and say that this is zero tolerance. So absolutely, this is in starting from the appraisals, the KPIs, to everything, to the top management, and it's really given. So if the top management have it in KPIs, and then its bottom percolates down, so it really shows, first of all, the importance. In fact, to give you an example, when we do an engagement survey, anything else can come as a problem. If you say rewards can come as a problem, sometimes manager can come as a problem. But when it comes to integrity, care, vision, it never comes as a problem, because we really do it well and also brand it super well. So that's where, I think the top management do a fantastic job in really ensuring that there is no discussion about this topic whatsoever. So that's where the leadership plays a pivotal role here. In ABB also, we have been very clear on the DNA of the organization. So even as you read my profile, we launched shared services, right? We are not in the business of shared service. Clearly, we are not. We are a production worker, blue collar plus white collar mixed organization, really facing all set of problems which any other next organization will face. So when we launched it, I mean, and when I was actually the one who was setting it up, and then I had no knowledge about it, honestly. So then everybody come around me and they will say, okay, you're launching this is a very different industry. This will happen, that will happen. It's a tough industry. Employees will not listen to you, and blah, 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 all the myths around it. And for us, the most important thing was, and also I heard in the previous conversations today, that people said your culture will get spoiled, culture will happen to this. So, and all those kind of things. And that's where we really thought that how to come into, in a different venture with not just playing around with your culture or keeping your whole basics right. So this is where we ensured that we even launched, a shared service center. We ensured that we never followed a typical industry norms, and which I don't want to talk, is different industry to industry, but typically which roam around like myth. So we were very clear on the kind of talent we want to hire. We were very clear that we are not making it as a cost arbitrage center. So because it's a captive for us, it doesn't matter if it costs so much. But if it's a product for us, by us, then let's have it certain level of quality. So that's where again leadership have driven it. We have it even in our annual general meeting in Switzerland announced it. So that's where where you drive topics like this and make it impactful.
Great. Wow. One of the requirements for, because I come from a training coaching space, one of the requirements that I noticed came in quite a bit during this time is how to interview people digitally. And that's, I thought, was a new skill set that people were looking at their leaders or interviewers. So regarding this, Jayati, I would like to ask you, were there any changes that you as a leader or the organization made in terms of looking at that there are new competencies required, skill sets required for people, considering the current business challenges as well as the environmental challenges?
Absolutely. So let me park that competency for a minute and let me come back to the sudden shift we had when we moved on to a completely virtual world. And I'm sure all of you went through that shift and change. So overnight, we had to really change ourselves, gear ourselves, steer our wheel, and say that here we move from office location interviews to a completely virtual environment. And I have to really admit it was not easy because we had interview panels who were not really used to doing interviews, and especially technical interviews and sometimes engineering interviews virtually. So there was a time when we had to get into calls to really understand what do they like to evaluate in those kind of interviews and how can we still continue to do virtually, because that was what we had to change with the environment. With that came in the entire virtual platforms that got introduced in this space. I personally believe that this virtual platforms that we're talking about will take a completely 360-degree change in the next, I see it as not more than 6 months, and there will be introductions of completely new platforms which will start measuring competencies, evaluating competencies, looking at culture of an organization, matching it with the expectations of the role. And there will be there will be a lot of technology changes that will happen on the entire interviewing platforms itself in the next 6 to 8 months because of the change of environment that we are going through. So that's one part of it. As far as competencies are concerned, as far as talent competencies are concerned, I see that there is a huge need to evaluate people around ability to work in a completely ambiguous environment, because we really do not know how the world is going to change in the next 6 months. Is it going to move into a completely office environment, or will it move into a complete virtual? If you're talking about hybrid, what is hybrid? So there's a huge amount of ambiguity in that entire working. And what we need to see is the talent that we are taking in, are they able to adapt to that ambiguity, whatever that ambiguity is? That's one. Second big piece is around evaluating candidates or evaluating talent around how they perceive an organization. How do they, what is their ethics? What is their cultural trend? How do they assimilate? Because understand, most of the talent is going to have a completely virtual onboarding. So how would they assimilate in the first 3 weeks? Are they one of those who have a very high learnability? And this learnability is around integrating with an organization, not really learning new skills or new technologies, but integrating with an organization. So it's key for us to really evaluate talent as to how quickly is the person able to integrate in a new environment, especially when it's a complete remote environment. So these are the some of the competencies that we have to look at much deeper than what we do right now. I think the big challenge in front of us is how do we evaluate people in this new world, in this new way of working? How do we evaluate? How do we still be able to attract talent in the way that we've been doing? Engage with talent, because engagement itself, the dynamics of engagement has completely changed today. So how do we engage with talent, remote or virtual? Do we move to a world which is not completely virtual but semi-virtual? Will that be more impactful? Is there a different kind of a brush for each different kind of a talent? Are we using the same brush for everybody? Is there can be a talent who's absolutely comfortable to have a virtual connect. There can be a talent who's not very comfortable and doesn't feel and doesn't is not able to really look at the organization closely if it is completely virtual. So is it the same brush that need to be applied for all of them? So it's a big question ahead of us as to how we change our brush depending on what kind of talent is coming in for us. So that those are the things that I see is absolutely important for us to keep in mind and work upon. And I'm expecting that there's a complete change that's going to happen on the in the platforms that exist around interviewing uh, to to meet our hybrid model that we're talking about. You know.
So
Maybe Rachna,
truly,
I
you
would
know,
like
you,
to
yes,
just,
go ahead, Neha.
yeah, just want to add to what, and very close to my heart topics, I can't
Yes.
resist. So
Sure, go ahead.
for me, it, the most important thing is whether to work from home or work for home, all those WhatsApp university jokes. The idea here is flexibility. So world has taught us now that it's okay to be flexible, irrespective of blue collared, white collared. We have to think on that space. That's a complete different question that I personally like to work from office. If that's my flexible space, it's completely fine. So see, once COVID is gone, thankfully, then it's about you decide your flexible space. And the second important fact for me here is that, you know, let's not look at is as, I mean, absolutely very right with Jayati, new tools will come and all that is super cool. But it's not about that we get, we think that, okay, this is new normal. For me, that was normal. This is not new normal. This is something we created, and probably, this is not normal. This new normal will come. See, because it is also human tendency. We are human beings. We will also get back to meeting people, travel, who don't like it. I mean, so at the end of the day, we need to decide that what is the limit of that much, but not get complacent of the fact that this will here to stay and then everybody will be super comfortable taking virtual calls, because we all know we are getting extremely worked up with only this setup as well at some point in time. So the thing is, I think the flexibility is the key. Give flexibility to your employees, but allow them to decide their space. That's the point.
I think what both of you said kind of reinforces the fact that when we are talking about, mindset being digital, mindset being flexible, being authentic, some of the earlier speakers like Animesh was saying that leadership conversations need to be authentic now. It's no longer about, two leaders driving and everybody else following. It's like a collusion of the willing, he said, which is really a nice phrase to say. And I'm going to take this forward with Dr. Vinod, you about two things. One is if you can talk about, because ambiguous environment is there for the leader as well. So, and you use the word proactive, which really actually helped the organization like Aditya Birla in terms of taking some step pre-pandemic as well, which really helped you thereafter. So, what are some of the leadership conversations and flexible approaches that you took that helped the organization and with higher engagement and I would say contribution? Because one of the things I remember Jayati was mentioning earlier, that if you want to do innovation, it's not probably going to happen in a virtual world. You've got to be there. You've got to discuss it, put it on the table. So there are certain things which work very well in a face-to-face. And as Neha was saying, and even the earlier speakers were saying, that when people meet, there is an happiness, there is a sense of comfort and well-being when they're there. So can you throw some light about leadership conversations, plus the flexibility approach, and considering that it is indeed an ambiguous environment still?
Yeah, basically, flexibility you have to provide. Because, if you provide the flexibility, then definitely you will get the positive result. Like, in our case, we are very particular about the outcome. Instead of that, whether you are working from A location or B location while traveling or something like that. That's the one. Leader has to set the example. Let me share one of the example, before this COVID scenario, government, they were not that much comfortable to have e-meetings. I think 3 years before, probably, if I'm correct, in Niti Aayog, last moment, we wanted to connect my MD. And my MD is supposed to come to Delhi to have that particular important meeting. Suddenly, he got some urgent assignment and he said, I cannot come to Delhi for this meeting. Immediately, we contacted, that senior officer's office and said that, can we have the, that e-meeting? He said, what you are talking here, aisa nahi hota hai. Your MD is so busy, he cannot come to Delhi. My officer is not, that man is very senior, blah, blah. I said, told him, boss, be practical. That's the situation. You can just ask him, whether he's comfortable and then explain the situation. And, his office discussed with him and he said, okay, fine, go ahead with that. So that idea worked, that way. After that, he said, it's a fantastic job. Instead of, calling for one particular meeting from Bombay to Delhi, I think at least, to see improvement is a continuous process. Like if you see the 4 or 5 windows and you see the that way clarity on the different screen and all this thing. So now we are talking about e-conferences, e-exhibition. Not only that, that nowadays doctor is more comfortable, in consulting through, video conferencing on all this thing. They are earning more, they are covering more patient and all this thing. That is separate issue. Prior to that, you have to send the report and they give you the test, which you're supposed to go through that. And after that, you upload that particular report. And after that, you get the time through for the e-meeting. And this is working very well. And my organization is very human-centric organization. Let me share one of the practical experience. We go in NCR, we got the 5-star office at very reasonable price. I think 5 years back or 6 years back. My head HR said, that's quite far, but his office is fantastic. Let me conduct survey from an employee. Can you imagine? After knowing the feedback from an employee, we, that we dropped that idea. The office was fantastic. I don't want to name that particular office. Just I am sharing the incident. See, that type of, incident give you the proud feeling. Involvement of my chairman and my managing director, respective managing director of the company, during this COVID, I don't want to read out, my group Chalisa, but really, that way, I am feeling very proud. And, he was monitoring at micro level in terms of, see, he has given not only instruction, he was, everyone can approach and, connect with the chairman or the respective managing director. He said, we are here just not to take care of yourself. You are nearer and dearer as well. See, in real sense, they have given the, feeling of main huna. Organization should, act like that only. And leader has to set the example. During the visit of my managing director to Delhi, we stuck in traffic. We were having the meeting in railway. My managing director said कि यार auto पकड़ लेते हैं. I said कि नहीं sir, छोड़ो auto नहीं पकड़ते, कोई देख लेगा, something like that. No, I said nothing like that, don't be so this thing. And we took auto and reached that particular this thing. I said let me take a selfie that that way managing director in India traveling by auto. So let's for you in India, that may be the new concept or something like that. We believe in something else. So we have to create that type of concept. And when this metro start, that airport metro start, my MD was first in that to use that metro. After seeing that that so you are coming by metro. Oh yes. And I was sharing with some of the senior bureaucrats in government. They said, oh, your MD is coming by metro only. I'm like, yes, sir. Then after 6 months or a year, we saw a lot of ministers and the senior bureaucrats using that way. So you have to take the initiative and set a benchmark. Then only you're going to expect from others to follow. We have to respect the initiative and the create an environment where others can follow. In my company, for this proactive approach, now everybody is talking about the ESG concept, environment, social, governance. Even investor is asking about that. You see, we are not claiming that at world level we are the first to introduce that, but sensing the future requirement. We are proactive and taking care of them and got the appreciation from various corners. Like in we released the sustainable mining charter. We shared that copy of that with the PMO and the Environment Ministry. Initially, they said, "Ye kya hai?" And after getting the reference from the PMO to the Environment Ministry, stating that can be implemented across the industry, and we presented our case, that report before the committee, expert committee. They appreciated like anything. Well, everything is documented. Everybody is doing it this way and that way, but documentation is essential. So you have to set the example, and that way in terms of saying that nowadays surgery is happening through robot and something in some of the area. You see, nothing is impossible, and one should continue improve their working culture as well as adopt the best practices, and the improvement is a continuous process. That much I can say.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, definitely. I think you talked about a very important aspect about walking the talk. Leaders living up to what they expect as a culture, as how best practices needs to be followed. There are some few questions that has come up from the audience, and I was just thinking of picking up one of them. Neha, this I would request you to respond to. And then, of course, I would also request Jayati and Dr. Vinod also, if you think that you have a perspective to add, please share that. It says that while we hear about vision, mission, values of an organization, why don't companies define culture also? What are some models that are widely used to describe and measure culture?
I mean, when it comes to, so can you read the first part of the question once more, Rachna?
Yeah, sure. It says, while we hear vision, mission, values are pretty clearly defined. Yeah. So companies don't define culture. Are there some models that are widely used to describe and measure culture?
Yeah, because the rest all is a subset of the culture. So that's how it is. I mean, it's like a mother holding the rest of the stuff. So, the culture is, and also in the morning session, as you said, Rachna, it was told, right? Culture is also not something that we made the culture and that's about it. Culture also grows, culture also changes, culture also transforms. I mean, if that doesn't transform, our companies wouldn't have grown all these years. So that's very clear. So that is the reason we can't define it. Yes, that's a different question that we can say, okay, we can define it every year. But that itself is not a culture if you define it every year. So it becomes the basis of everything we do. So it's a very good question. We can debate over it. But honestly, if the day we start defining culture, the organization loses essence. Because this is what, and for example, so with how much pride Vinod was talking about the organization, right? So this is what the culture is, right? So in an external forum, you bring out those instances and really feel proud about it. Or for example, if I quote something which is an instance where my leadership has shown, so something like that, so it becomes the basis of what we have done. And then after that, you can, and even if you see mission, vision really changes. Mission, vision really changes with the strategy, with the growth pattern, with the competitors, but culture doesn't change. So if your competitors are, you have 5 new companies in the market really pulling people, but that doesn't mean you have that hiring strategy that other people are doing. So that doesn't change your culture. But mission, vision has to change. So for example, you can change that, for example, your mission or vision should be to grow with a certain pace. But if you see the market is changing, you need to change the pace. Or for example, you need to really have a very different strategy on sustainability. So that makes your vision. But culture becomes the basis or the set where all the subset is holding. So that's where I feel.
Okay. All right. Jyoti or Vinod, anybody else wants to comment
Yeah.
on this question?
I think excellently put, Neha. Culture is something which the employees believe in, and represent and show. Uh, Vinod spoke so proudly about his MD, and that's the culture that the MD has built it, or the organization has built for itself. The culture is, say, for example, and I mean, I'm just taking an example, a field service engineer for our organization went out of his way 2 days of travel when travel was completely impossible in interiors of Uttar Pradesh to install ICU equipment in a hospital, stayed on the corridors of the hospital that night when the country was going through its peak of COVID. He dared to do it, and that's culture. The organization cannot put a pressure on him to do it, but he went all out to get it done, and that's culture. It cannot be changed, it cannot be defined, it can only be set as an example or as a precedence that that's how it has been, it is. And that's how we cannot really describe, measure, but we can feel it.
Right.
Yeah,
Living values is definitely
Yeah.
an focus or a contribution to culture. Yes, Vinod, please go ahead.
see, at national level, nothing is written in terms of this is our culture. So in my individual capacity, I can say it's not that much easy to define that. Over a period of time, culture is not that much easy to change, and one should note that way, because once you have the vision, mission, and that way, everything on black and white, transparency is there. So over a period of time, you build up some culture. It takes long time to that way convert some practices in terms of culture. That's my individual understanding. So having said that, you have to put a lot of efforts to that way. One can say that's our culture. Like in India, at national level, we have some of the departments or the ministries. Their main objective is to preserve or to that way create more awareness about our culture. Like it may be previous culture or modern culture or whatever terminology you can use. So it's not that much easy to define in say one piece of paper that that's our culture. But whosoever asked this question is a very relevant. If you have vision, mission, and everything is written at national level, you have the A law, B law, C law, and you have to do this and that this thing. So why don't you describe the culture as well? So see, that much I can say.
Okay. Interestingly, we started the day with talking about culture, and we are almost towards the concluding time of our panel discussion, and we are discussing culture. I would just take a couple of minutes more to put up the poll, which is also related to this. So can I request the host to put up the poll? And I would also request the panel members to also click on your responses. So this is what the panel 2 poll is. Creating a stable and uniform workplace culture in the new age world of work is best brought about by which of one of the following factors according to you. So please click on one. The first one being building a wide sense of employees' well-being, caring and development, establishing great performance-based management practices, creating an enterprise human face and employee provider customer nexus, innovative large-scale communication models to engage the hybrid workforce, strong, dynamic, charismatic leadership, creating a brand story that goes beyond business. I hope all the panel members were able to respond, and we can take another 10 seconds more and then close the poll. Okay, I'll request the host to put up the results, please. Interesting. A large contribution is coming from innovative large-scale communication models to engage the hybrid workforce. And I think the next one being building a wide sense of employee well-being, caring, and development. And I think we are going to talk more about it tomorrow, first session. So I guess, some of the things that you shared kind of resonates and adds to what the poll response also has been. And thank you so much for your contributions and ideas and perspective sharing. It was my pleasure, and I really enjoyed listening to all of you. And the very fact that you shared diverse views, kind of lived up to our topic. So thank you very much. And we can now move towards the closure of the day in terms of our discussion. So I just wanted to check with the host that do we need to, or Rakesh, I can see you're there. So I bring you in to conclude the day and share your thoughts about the day's proceedings.